Okay, today's date is 25 September 2022. I'm at the Tank Farm in Nooksville, Virginia. We are at the 2022 open house, and I have the pleasure of sitting down and speaking with Gary White. Thank you, sir, for sitting down and talking to us. Can you just give us just a quick background on yourself? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was actually born in Fredericksburg, Virginia, 1978. Grew up all over, but mostly in the Dale City area, not too far from here.
Okay.
Went to school, most of the Prince William County schools, the Absco Elementary School, Godwin Middle School, Garfield High School. Then I became a volunteer fireman and joined the National Guard.
What year did you graduate Garfield?
Didn't graduate Garfield. I graduated from Richard Milburn, which is a private school.
Okay.
That was 1997.
Okay. And what branch of the service were you
Virginia Army National Guard.
in? And what war did you participate in?
I participated in OIF 06 and 08. IOF 06 to 08.
Did you have any other family members that are members of the military?
I do. My grandfather, he fought in Korea and Vietnam. His brother, Uncle Danny, fought in Vietnam. My aunt is a gunnery sergeant, or was a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, and my uncle was a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps.
Okay. All right. Why did you decide to join the service?
It's just something that I've always wanted to do, to serve, give back.
Yeah. Why did you decide to join the Army?
That's an interesting story. The Navy wasn't going to take me with an emergency appendectomy I had February 13th, 1996. It was the day before Valentine's Day.
Okay.
And Navy said, well, you have to wait 3 years. So I'm just like, I'm not going to wait 3 years. So I joined the Virginia Army National Guard while I was still in high school. It was a split up.
And what year was that?
I joined 1996, and that was March 1996.
Okay. All right.
Junior in high school.
What were you doing on September 11, 2001?
Wow, that's going to be interesting. The morning of September 11th, I was at Dulles Airport. I was working at Signature Flight Support. I was on the run-up block apron for runway 19 left. I was offloading the German military reception, Otto Lilienthal, and Flight 77 taxied about 50 feet from me that morning.
Really?
Yeah.
What thoughts did you have when you heard about what had happened and what was ongoing? You're in the military at this point, right?
No.
You're in the Guard?
Nope.
You're not
I
in the
was
Guard yet?
separated 1999 for a knee injury, and
Okay.
9/11 is the reason why
Okay.
I fought the knee injury to get back in 2005.
Okay.
At this point, we were still running around on the flight line trying to figure out what was going on. The first set of pictures came in, the World Trade Centers were hit, and then they were like, we're under attack, and then they had said that the Pentagon was hit. And then we suspended all flight ops. Aircraft were landing on the runway. We were trying to find space to put them out everywhere we possibly could. What could go in the hangar went in the hangar. What could stay out on the run-up blocks stayed on the run-up blocks. And that was right after 9:30, 10 o'clock. All of our flight ops were suspended going out. And then there was police activity everywhere. And then we just sat inside the ops center and we're just watching the TV.
Right. Was it chaos at the airport? I mean,
I was on the flight side, so I didn't get a chance to see anything.
how about on that end of it? I mean,
We
this
had,
is the first time anything like this has happened.
We had VIPs that were coming out to get sat phones out of their planes.
Right.
That was about it.
Okay.
So
The gravity of that day sink in. What that would mean. America's been intact. That's our generation's Pearl Harbor. Did any of that sink in? What the ramifications of that day would be?
yeah. I left Dulles Airport probably around 1 o'clock. My wife, she was she was a nursing student at Prince William County. Even though she had already graduated from high school, the Prince William County still allowed nursing students to attend their schools. Short drive from Dulles Airport to get down to Manassas. I think it was Stonewall. It took me 4.5 hours to get there, going down Route 28. I was finally allowed into the school, and the reports that they were getting is that there were airplanes that were flying over Dulles. They were threatening to crash into the airports. After that, the school was able to lift their lockdown, and then my wife and I drove back to our house off of Dumfries Road, and we realized that, you know, what had just happened was it was awestruck. I went to bed that night, and then I woke up the next morning, and I just felt that America was different.
Right.
From that point on, it was forever to be changed.
Yeah. At what point do you decide, okay, I'm going to go back in the military? Or try to?
It was, it started probably about a week and a half later. There were, the hardest thing for me to do was to buy an American flag. No, it sounds weird. Every American flag that I could possibly wanted to buy was already sold. Everybody was buying them. I don't know if anybody remembers, but American flags were on the side of cars. They were on the back of trucks.
Yeah.
They were on the sides of houses. People were, you know, building flagpoles, putting them outside their. I mean, I just never seen that amount of patriotism before. Yeah. About a week and a half after 9/11, I decided that it was time for me to go back in. So.
Okay, so about a week and a half later, you decide, I need to go back in.
Yes.
What were some of the hurdles you had to jump through? Because you said you'd gotten out because of a knee.
I had a medical discharge at 30%, which was technically a medical retirement. I wasn't taking any of my benefits since I got out in 1999. I had to rehab my knees above, below, behind, around the knee. Surgery wasn't an option because it just makes the knees worse. I had to talk to multiple recruiters. Eventually, my friend was able to get me back in. I had to have a session on Congress for the bill to be passed to allow people with specific disabilities to come back in. I was an infantryman when I left, infantryman when I came back in.
Okay.
So, 2005, right around March, April 2005, I got permission from Sergeant Jim O'Farrell, my recruiter, my good buddy. He was able to finagle with the tag, and Pennsylvania's tag had spoken and tried to get me to get a release to come back in, and then finally, you know, the Hill agreed that it was okay, and then I had 2 or 3 generals that were pushing for it for me to come back in. So.
One of the things that people don't realize is never served in the military is that the family also sacrifices.
Yes.
When the loved one is deployed. Was your wife supportive of your decision to go back in? Because you knew when you were going to go back in, you were deploying. That was almost 100% guaranteed. Was she supportive of that?
No, she was not, but she knew that I needed to do something.
Yeah.
So
she didn't stand in your way, or say?
She didn't stand in my way. She was unhappy that I had a week to make the decision to come back in, and then I made that decision. And then, while it put a little bit of strife on the relationship, I think it just made us stronger. She supports me, you know, even though she doesn't agree with it. She supports. So
let's fast forward. You deploy to Iraq in 2006.
We start the train up in 2006, correct?
Okay. What is that like?
Train up in 2006, we're spending multiple times, 3-4 weeks at a time down at AP Hill. My unit, Charlie Company 3rd, the 116th out of Manassas, they had just gotten back from a deployment, and I think they were Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. So those that hadn't deployed yet were getting called up with the next one, and that was me. And I was transferred from an infantry unit in Manassas down to the Combat Engineers, the Brigade Special Troops Battalion, Alpha Company 116th. engineers down in Fredericksburg.
Okay.
We spent, I don't know, weeks down at AP Hill, weapons quals, going through all your Common Core soldier tasks, getting initial issues for equipment, uniforms, and then we were cut loose right around December 20, just before the 20th, so it was probably around the 18th. We get cut loose to go home, spend time with family for Christmas and New Year's. After New Year's, we all have to show back up at the Armory in Fredericksburg, and I want to say that was the 4th or the 7th of January.
2007.
2007.
Okay. And you make your way to Iraq.
Make my way to Iraq via Kuwait, correct.
Okay. What are your initial impressions when you get there?
I'm
assuming this is your first deployment.
My first deployment ever.
Combat deployment.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, from the air, Iraq looked gorgeous. On the ground, it looked like a landfill. So.
What are your duties when you're there? What's your mission, I guess?
My mission initially was to support SOF soldiers with cordon search. That, of course, changed. We had a fragmentary order, which changed our orders. We would be stationed at Camp Cedar 2, forward operating base in An-Naziriyah, Iraq.
Okay.
So we went from a support and assist to managing the security and the convoy routes around Camp Cedar 2, up and down Flamidia, Alpha Bravo Charlie, and MSR Tampa.
Okay. What is it like the first time that you see combat, the first time you're out there?
So patrols were interesting. Combat is not like the movies. Combat is not like combat in the past. I'd say 100% of my deployment, 90% of that was downtime, training, ops, convoys. 10% was actually combat. Of that 10%, right around 1% was actual weapons being fired. So.
Okay. What's that like? Tell somebody, you're now out there and someone's trying to kill you. It gets real. It's not just on the flat range anymore.
It's the one thing that we had to worry about mostly was IDF, indirect fire. We were we were working with an insurgency called Jaish al-Mahdi, JAM. They're mostly Shia related, Muqtada al-Sadr's guys. Mostly Iranian supported. Those are the guys that did all the EFPs. The foreign projectiles that were, blowing through the Humvees, taking guys apart, losing limbs left and right. First time that it happened was right before June 7th. We had a complex attack, a small arms fire complex attack on Camp Cedar 2. My platoon was on the side of the LAs, the living area, and we were putting Silver Surfer, the movie, on the side of the cans because it was, our night off. And then we heard gunfire, break out up front, and then right in the middle of the movie, I remember looking over to my buddy McBroom. I was just like, "Do you see that?" And you could see like the lights just falling out of the sky. And he was like, "Oh shit!" And then it was like incoming, and then we were already moving towards the bunkers before the impacts had even happened. And that was my first baptism into combat. Was indirect fire. We would get indirect fired probably 4 more times. The worst night was I counted 21 impacts between mortar and rocket fire. I believe it was Katyusha 122s. So, but I had some close calls. Some EOD Guys had to come out and do a couple rounds that had impacted near us that never detonated. So unexploded ordnance. The closest ordnance that landed in front of me was probably 76 meters. So, and that was a Katyusha 122.
How often was this a problem? Was it every night? Or
It wasn't every night. So, like I said,
so often?
10% of my deployment time was, mostly indirect fire. And then 1% of that was actual perimeter shooting. I secured KIA on the right side of the berm over by towers, in between Tower 3 and Tower 4. And a left flank of the berm secured the wounded in action. Put up a lot of flares that night, so.
What's the tempo like? How often are you guys going out and doing patrols?
I think I counted 487, 486 patrols, roughly.
Is that every day?
Not every, we wouldn't do 400 patrols every day.
But I'm saying every day you're going out doing one?
Every day we go out one, but I had other responsibilities too. Our medic became a conscientious objector, so they utilized my first responder skills as a fireman to fill in that void for my platoon. I had ECP security. I ran a machine called the ZBV, backscatter X-ray machine, and the MVACUS, the mobile vehicle cargo inspection system. So, but just scanning convoys coming in, making sure they didn't have anything. Patrols, anything from truck commander, convoy commander to driver and gunner. So.
What's your living conditions like?
At first they were poor, and then compared to what I had seen in the movies, Vietnam, Korea, first Gulf War, living conditions were, it's a trailer. It's a trailer broken up into thirds, and you share it with another guy of equal rank, or as best as you can.
Right.
So, refrigerator on the inside. You could bring a TV. We were playing Xbox and watching movies in the middle of wartime. So.
Sleeping on cots or beds? Or?
Beds.
Yeah.
The only time I had to not sleep in a bed was when I was on an LPOP, listening post, observation post, or on a patrol. And you slept inside your Humvee.
Yeah. How about chow? Good chow?
Chow was good. The thing that
MREs every day.
No, not every day. Only on certain patrols will we dip into the MREs. We pass those out mostly for what do you call it? Not advise and assist, but civilian military operations, CMO operations, to give it to like a kid or a family, dump off some MRAs. But we had a thing called the bunker buster. And during the first Gulf War, you heard about all these bunkers that were getting tagged out. This thing was a monster sandwich. It was about that big, about that long. It had every type of meat and cheese on it and all the vegetables you could put on it. You didn't want to get it with extra mayo, because mayo in Iraq and milk in Iraq, and it's just, it doesn't work out too well. And then your meal, you're like, oh man, I'm going to eat all that. And then you're just like, it's out in the heat. You don't eat all of it. You usually split it up into thirds and share it with Ugandan counterparts or your fellow buddies. So,
how were you guys accepted by the Iraqis?
Good and bad. Some of the Iraqis, mainly one of the Bedouins that was out there, Musa, he was one of the only Iraqi nationals to actually come onto our FOB. He sat down and had food with us. He used to always, signal us, hey, the local nationals are harassing the convoy, and we'd go out and some of them were good and some of them weren't good. So.
Were the people there receptive to you guys? Were they supportive of why you were there? Or were they just, you guys were a necessary evil and they couldn't wait to get rid of you?
I couldn't put a number on it. I can say that Musa and his family, they were very welcome of us. We were over there maybe once a month. His daughters and sons would go out and slaughter a goat, chicken. They would make a meal for us. We'd sit down in the Diwania and, smoke hookah, shisha, not hashish, and have tea, chai, hot kawa, hot coffee. Yeah, I mean, that was great. The Iraqis were able to build a school out of their own resources, their own construction materials, their own manpower. This is something that the civilian military operation, one of our operations that we did there was for. We, gave them what they needed, and they were able to, build this large school. So I'd say a portion of them were acceptive of us, and some of them were not. So.
You mentioned video games. What do you guys do for downtime? How much downtime do you get?
God, I must have died probably about 6,000 times in Halo and Call of Duty over there. Downtime, it was different. You can go to the call center, make a call home. I picked up drawing, was one of the things that I did. Some of my other battle buddies, we got into Dungeons and Dragons, made a whole map. Our downtime would be sleep or, go into a D&D game or go over to NWR, watch a movie, or, go play some games. Hit the gym a lot, smoke some cigars.
Right.
So.
Are there any incidents that stand out in your mind, good or bad? When you think about your time in Iraq, the first thing that pops into your head.
Good thing is that we came back without any casualties. The initial mission, we were slotted for 60 to 70% casualty rate. The Virginia TAG, I imagine, was very happy that it was mission success. Slap us on the back, good job. I had no casualties for that one. I know a good handful of my fellow engineer brothers and my infantry guys. We had volunteered to go to Afghanistan. We were going to get like 60 days back in the States and then go on the next deployment. The TAG was not having any of that. And then once we got denied for going to Afghanistan, about a week later, they needed some other volunteers to go up to Baghdad, BIAP area, small contingent for Fallujah. Same group of guys, we all volunteered again for that mission. It would have been like 2 weeks home, and then you come back. TAG was like, absolutely not, it's mission success. You guys are coming home. So that was the positive thing. I got to make some great lasting relationships and bonds, not just with infantrymen, but with medics and what we call them pogues, people other than grunts. They consider themselves protectors of grunts. I mean, they support us. A great bunch of guys, some of those engineers, the sappers that we were with. I still talk to them today. Some of the negative things, it's a deployment. You're away from home. I didn't have kids at the time. I had a wife. She was going through school, medical school. That was, just missing time from family. That was about it.
That's probably the one good thing about you being gone. She could spend all of her time doing that. I'm assuming that, and focus her attention there instead of worrying about you all the time. I know you're going to worry, but
yeah,
she has something to do.
Yeah.
To kind of, put off those negative thoughts.
Yeah, that helped out a little bit. My support group for her back home was, it was magnificent. My brother stepped up. My mom stepped up. Her friends, our mutual friends, stepped up. They took her to a Aerosmith concert. Got VIP access to that.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Describe your homecoming.
Wow, homecoming was that was interesting. It wasn't as big as the send-off. So that January, we left the Fredericksburg Armory in 2007, and we drove through downtown Fredericksburg, and every shop owner, it seemed like every person that lived there was outside waving flags, sending us off. The homecoming ceremony was McGuire Air Force Base at Fort Dix, New Jersey. It was late February, March time frame. And pilot came across the air. I guess we're about 20 miles out from the American Air Defense Zone, and he's like, all right, guys, you know, we're in American airspace. Plane totally erupted, you know, yeah. And I was like, but, you know, we're not on the ground yet.
Yeah.
So we land on the ground. You know, it was a group of guys. Some of the guys were, you know, a little tearful, and I'm just like, yeah, this is done. I can knock this off. We get off the airplane, get on a bus, and they take us over to the Post Chapel. And then it's like a group of families were there. Some guys couldn't have their family members there, other guys could. I was able to meet my wife, and you know, I was just looked right into her eyes and said, you know, I love you. You know, went to hell, and I'd go through hell just to get to you again. So
you fought to get back in. You did your time. You got out. 9/11 happens. You fought to get back in. Any regrets on doing that?
No, none.
Do it again.
Do it again.
If you had.
Yep. As a matter of fact, I still work for DoD. So even though I'm out.
Yeah. How do you think your wartime experience has affected your life?
There were some negative bouts. There isn't a soldier that hasn't deployed or hasn't seen stuff that won't go through some PTSD. I've gone through some PTSD. I recommend all my brothers, you know, they go to some sort of counseling, join a support group. My trigger was the sound of breaking glass. When those rounds came in and impacted 76, 84, 96 meters from me, I heard breaking glass. It was actually shrapnel. Yeah. Night became day. But through different types of treatment, I was able to, you know, immersion therapy and subtle hints of therapy where, you know, you're with people you trust. Without meds, you know, they would drop glass, and then you would, you know, sensitize yourself slowly to the sound of breaking glass. And then never had a problem going into crowds. I find safety in numbers. I also find safety being alone too. But yeah, reintegration back was good. That would be the negative part would be the PTSD, but the positive is the learning the support groups and the tools to deal with that, and making new friends along that way. Yeah. So
we're going to preserve this story for history, right?
Yep.
That's why we're doing this. Somebody sees this. Maybe it's your great-grandkids. Maybe it's your kids. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's your great-great-grandkids 50, 100 years down the road. What message would you like to send them?
Wow.
And maybe it's somebody you not even related.
So I'm a man of many different mottos. My Latin ones are carpe diem, seize the day, right. Carpe noctem, seize the night. They have that Navy SEAL poem where there's a portion in it that says nothing. Something in life worth doing is worth overdoing. Moderation is for cowards. Don't let people tell you no. I was told no, I couldn't go back in. Just be tenacious. If there's a goal that you want to reach as high as you can. You are your authority in life. You know, just because somebody says no or you can't do that doesn't mean that you can't. You can. You just gotta find the loopholes and attack it from multiple different angles. Yeah. Just to get, you know, what it is that you want in life.
Is there anything else you want to document? Anything I didn't ask, or anything that popped in your head since we've been talking?
Nah. Just, you know, thank you to my fellow servicemen. So.
Amen to that. Well, thank you for sitting down and talking to us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Minutes out of your day, and more importantly, although this tends to be a cliche, we thank you for your service.
I understand. It's my honor to serve.
Thank you.